Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tully, President and Executive Writing Coach at Defend and Publish, and welcome to episode 88, Overcoming Writing Slowdowns. Like last week, this episode is going to talk briefly about a workshop that we're offering in September on overcoming your own writing slowdowns. But I also want to put out a couple of pieces of thought-provoking advice to help with writing slowdowns if those might occur for you frequently or every once in a while, or you're just in a slowdown and it never got started back up again. And here's a couple of things that I've been thinking about with writing slowdowns that I've found really useful when it happens to me. There's a big difference, I would argue, between a writing slowdown that happens because I'm slowing down because I don't know where to go with my writing. I might be stuck on the organization. I might realize my methodology was all wrong. Maybe my research questions weren't actually the right questions, and I have to decide what am I going to do with them in terms of writing this next article. I might be waiting on someone else. So I'm not the one being slow, but one of my collaborators maybe has a lot on her plate or his plate, and one of our projects has slowed down for that reason. I know I've been the cause of a writing slowdown for someone else. So there's certainly that kind of slowdown where you don't honestly know what's happening with your writing and you're just stuck for some reason. It might be because of something that you're experiencing. It might be a factor outside of your control. The other kinds of writing slowdowns, I would argue, happen when you simply are just overwhelmed with responsibilities and many things that are happening. We're specifically offering this upcoming workshop on writing slowdown. So this one will be offered on September 21st, on Wednesday, September 21st, specifically in September, because I know when I work with newer faculty, things usually start off pretty well when we start a fall semester. So classes are going okay. Faculty tend to be doing okay with keeping up with writing. I know I train new faculty at my institution, and we set up a really nice writing schedule. Some folks participate in a writing group, and things are going along great until mid-September, when some projects start coming in, some exams start coming in. I know a lot of my science faculty are giving, these giant lab reports or projects. Those are all coming in. And then there's the juggling act again with teaching and writing, and which should be prioritized. This is something that I know we've talked about in previous workshops at Defend and Publish and how to manage that. One strategy that I know Jim Lang and I both recommend, I call it pattern teaching. He calls it modular teaching. I'll put a link in our show notes to an episode about that. One thing we both recommend is sort of cutting some of the preparation time to make sure that you're not letting teaching take over your writing time. But I would argue writing starts slowing down in September just sort of naturally as the semester ramps up and your classes become a little bit more to deal with. You might have to do more intensive preparation. Again, you might have the grading and so on. And so with that kind of a slowdown on writing, sometimes it's very frustrating to not be able to get back to your writing and to try to figure out, how can I manage doing these other responsibilities and still stay at the kind of writing pace that I would like? So really, if you think about the writing slowdowns, this could also be considered maybe a factor slightly outside of your control, because it's a little bit of a scheduling matter for some people. But you can be slowed down on writing for various reasons. And I think that's the point of this episode, that it's not just one thing that can cause a slowdown. It could be a combination. So I know I've just recently experienced a slowdown because of some health issues with a family member. I had some things with children starting school. I had a new class that I ended up adding at the last minute. And I had a project that was stalled because I needed to find out something that was taking a really long time to find out. So all of those factors, one at a time, would maybe not be that big of a deal. But when they all come together, those can cause writing to slow down a little bit. And so I know in this workshop, one of the things that we'll be working towards is figuring out how to recognize a slowdown. Usually you can recognize it, but sometimes people will hide out from their writing and not realize it until it's been a couple of weeks. So for example, one thing that I had noticed is usually I'm fairly good about completing writing during the weekdays. for a short period of time each weekday, and I take the weekends off. And I realized one time that I had not started writing until a Thursday. So a whole Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday had gone by before I even realized I hadn't done any of the writing that I needed to do. So, slowdowns, I think one thing that's important with these is to recognize that they're happening. A second part with slowdowns, though, is figuring out strategies how to get past them if you need to start writing again, because sometimes being slow is not necessarily a bad thing. And I know there's a whole slow professor movement. I'll put a link to in the show notes if you have not heard of this. I know we have some listeners that are over in Europe, and this is a movement that I just discussed at a workshop over there. And I know that it was something that was sort of a new idea. I'll make sure I put a link to the Slow Professor book and the movement in our show notes. But, sometimes slowdown is deliberate, where you're just trying to slow everything down and not be so rushed and frantic about scholarship. But sometimes you actually want to get back into a rhythm where you feel like you're actually making progress and you're not just plodding along in circles and not working towards that. So this upcoming workshop for folks that want to join us on September 21st, this episode is being recorded in September of 2022. Please feel free to register for it. All of our workshops are at Eventbrite. You can look for Defend and Publish at Eventbrite, and all of our workshops will be listed there. We do offer some 1-hour free webinars. Some are paid workshops, depending on how much hands-on activity you'll be doing. But we encourage you to join us for this one, because this could be a very proactive move if you're somebody that typically starts the semester very strong, and then as soon as the middle or end of September hits, you start slowing down on your research because everything else starts taking priority. This might be a good way to prevent that from happening this semester. So hopefully this tips and strategies offer something to think about, and happy writing this week.